Inside the silent courtroom of Atlanta, the air feels heavy on Maya Carter's shoulders. She's a black teenager with steady eyes and a quiet voice, sitting with her hands cuffed in front of her. The orange jumpsuit looks much too big for her, almost as if it's swallowing her up, and nobody in the room seems to see her as anything but guilty. Around her, people barely meet her gaze. It's as if Maya has already become just another number in a system that's forgotten how to look past people's skin or age. Judge Kenneth Simmons sits up straight at the bench, his tone flat as he reads out the sentence. Life in prison, with barely a pause or question. To him, it's simple routine, nothing personal, and he pays no real attention to the possibility that Maya could be innocent or that there's a story behind what happened. In the second row, her grandfather, Samuel Carter, sits gripping the edge of the bench, so tightly his knuckles turn pale. He's raised Maya alone ever since her parents died, always reminding her never to lower her eyes, as some folks would want to see her defeated. Now, though, Samuel's faith is shaking. The silence in the courtroom feels more like a punishment, not just for Maya, but for a whole generation that society tries hard to keep unseen. When Judge Simmons finishes reading the sentence, nothing happens at first. Nobody shifts in their seat or shows any shock. The prosecutor closes his folder with practiced indifference. The bailiff stands silent near the doors, and even the handful of people sitting in the gallery seem numb to what just happened. It's clear that to everyone in that room, the system is used to swallowing up young people like Maya without making a sound. All the details of her life, her dreams, her hard work at school, how she helps Samuel cook dinner every night, none of it matters here. Her fate seems worked out in advance, locked in by rules that never made space for her side of the story. But then, breaking every expectation, Maya slowly raises her eyes. She looks straight at Judge Simmons and, in a calm, steady voice, asks if she can make a phone call. Her voice isn't loud or desperate, but it cuts through the hush with surprising force. Even the judge, who seems unshakable, looks up from his paperwork, caught off guard. There's no begging in Maya's tone, no sign of panic, just the quiet certainty of someone who understands exactly how much this moment matters, and how heavy every word she says truly is. The guards, not bothering to hide their boredom, lead Maya down a dull, windowless hallway to a gray phone mounted on the wall. They've walked this path hundreds of times, watched plenty of other young people make calls to empty lines or to relatives who never pick up. To them, it's just another done deal. Maya, though, doesn't fumble or pause. She takes a slow breath, lifts the receiver, and carefully dials each digit. It is not just a number to her. It is a piece of her past, a fragment of hope, and a quiet promise she made to herself when everything started falling apart. On the other end, the call shoots across the miles from Atlanta all the way to Washington, D.C., where Olivia Parker, the country's Chief Justice, is in the middle of answering tough questions from reporters. Her phone vibrates in her pocket, and for a split second, she considers letting it ring through to voicemail. The chaos of the press conference continues as usual, but something stirs in her, an urge to see who it is. She picks up the phone, expecting another staff update, but as soon as she hears Maya's voice, the noise around her fades. In that moment, Olivia's entire world grinds to a halt, and she realizes this call is nothing ordinary. The silence that settles between Maya and Olivia on the phone is thick, almost hard to breathe through. Years have come between them. Years filled with Olivia chasing reforms from the nation's capital and Maya growing up mostly on her own, raised by her grandfather Samuel. Both of them know why things got this way, but neither brings up the old hurts. Maya doesn't waste time blaming or pleading. Instead, her voice is steady as she reminds Olivia of a promise Olivia once made when Maya was a child: to speak up for those who can't, to protect the ones whose stories go unheard. Maya's words are quiet, but they hit hard. She tells Olivia that for once, it's her turn to be listened to. She is the one swallowed up by the same broken system her mother has spent years trying to fix. Listening, Olivia suddenly feels like the floor has dropped out beneath her. All the power and prestige of her position, the speeches on live TV, the articles in national newspapers, They have never felt so powerless. In that moment, she faces the painful truth that while she was focused on changing things from a distance, she let her own daughter fall into the very trap she was fighting to tear down. Left alone in the hallway, Olivia is flooded by memories and second-guess decisions. She replays every reason she gave herself over the years for putting distance between her and Maya, and for leaving Atlanta behind in the first place. In her mind, working for justice in Washington and pushing for sweeping legal changes was always about making life better for Maya, about protecting her by fixing the broken system. But standing there now, phone still warm in her hand, Olivia understands all too clearly how that distance only made things worse. The gap between them grew each year, until her good intentions felt hollow. The guilt sits heavy on her, sharper than ever before, and for the first time, doing nothing is not an option. With a fierce sense of determination, Olivia heads straight for her office. She pulls out files from the Department of Justice's records, hunting for Maya's case. Turning page after page, she's shocked at how thin and messy the whole case feels. No solid evidence, missing defense witnesses, recreated scenes that never match the facts. Everything about the trial hints at mistakes or even manipulation, and the name of Judge Simmons keeps popping up. It's always there, linked to quick, quiet convictions, painting a troubling picture that Olivia cannot ignore. Olivia does not waste a second. Her mind is made up. No title, no amount of public respect is worth more than her daughter's freedom. She grabs her phone and calls Marcus Bell, an old friend back in Atlanta who knows all the ins and outs of the city's justice system. Marcus is one of those rare people who always sees what happens behind closed doors and is not afraid to get his hands dirty for the truth. Olivia tells him bluntly what she has found so far and asks for his help digging up the evidence that others have tried to bury. She knows that reaching out like this might stir up trouble for her career, but for the first time in years, she is ready to risk it all if it means she can save Maya. While she waits for Marcus's reply, memories flood in. Olivia goes back to the painful moment when she left Maya in Samuel's care after her husband died. Back then, leaving Atlanta was about escaping the pain, the endless struggle, and the weight of poverty. She honestly believed that building something big out in Washington would make up for everything she left behind. Now, though, Olivia sees the truth much more clearly. Real rescue starts at the source, right where she once walked away. Coming back to Atlanta is harder than Olivia expected. Every street she passes pulls up old memories, and the faces she catches glancing her way remind her of promises she could not keep. The city feels different, but also painfully familiar, like a chapter she never finished reading. When she finally stands on the worn steps of Samuel's house, her heart pounds louder than it did during any speech in Washington. Samuel opens the door and says little, his eyes full of everything they have never said. There is no warm welcome, only a quiet honesty that stings. Samuel tells her that when she left, it was not just Maya she let go, it was the whole family. Olivia takes those words in, letting them settle. Still, she is not turning back. She sits up at the old dining table where she once did homework. She pulls out her laptop and connects to the Department of Justice's database, falling quickly back into work mode. But this time, work feels personal. With each file she opens, she sees a clear pattern. Same charges, same prosecutor, same silent convictions. She reads name after name of young black teens, including Maya, who seem to vanish with little trace. Everything keeps circling back to Judge Simmons, all roads pointing one direction. The search for someone who can testify brings Olivia face to face with Carl Evans, a man her family once knew well. These days, Carl works as a bailiff at the Atlanta courthouse. Samuel is the one who mentions him, telling Olivia that lately, Carl has been quiet and jumpy, like a person carrying a burden that has grown too heavy. Olivia listens closely, realizing that Carl might be the missing piece she needs. She decides to track him down, hopeful but nervous, and asks Samuel to come along for support. They meet up with Carl at a small diner tucked away on a side street, far from the sweeping marble halls of the courthouse. The place smells of coffee and fried food, but it is safe and away from prying eyes. At first, Carl sits stiff and silent, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to walk in any second. But the calm, focused presence of Olivia and Samuel slowly helps him relax. With a tired sigh, Carl admits that he has seen things he cannot ignore. Evidence being tampered with, files rerouted directly to Judge Simmons's chambers, and verdicts that were decided long before anyone set foot in the courtroom. Olivia leans in, her tone gentle but urgent as she tells Carl how much his testimony could change things. She lays it out honestly. Yes, there is real danger in standing up, and Carl could lose everything he has worked for. But she also makes it clear that staying silent will only mean more lives harmed, Maya's included. Samuel adds a quiet word, sharing how much their family and so many others in Atlanta are counting on someone to finally speak up. Carl's hands shake, and he looks down at his coffee for a long moment. Even so, something shifts in his face. He takes a deep breath and says he cannot keep these secrets any longer. He agrees to testify, his voice rough with nerves but also with a sense of resolve. The decision weighs heavy, yet he seems lighter for having made it. At the same time, Olivia's digging uncovers new details about what really happened the night of the fire that landed Maya in trouble. Maya had built a new lighting system for the East Side Community Center, hoping it would keep the neighborhood kids safe at night. Those blueprints, left among the burnt remains, ended up twisted into evidence against her, turning her act of care into the very thing that condemned her. Just when Olivia thinks she has a handle on things, a new piece of the puzzle falls into place and makes the truth even messier. She learns that Charles Patterson, a city councilman with deep pockets and plenty of connections across Atlanta, has been eyeing the land where the East Side Community Center stands. He wants the building torn down so he can push through a high-end condo project, promising jobs and growth, but really just chasing after bigger profits. The fire, it turns out, was not an accident. It was planned. Charles did not want any resistance from a neighborhood, and pinning the blame on Maya made everything move faster. She was an easy target, not just for her age and silence, but because, as a young black woman, the system was primed to turn its back. Sitting in that diner, Carl brings up a memory he can no longer ignore. He saw Maya's blueprints for the lighting system sitting right on Judge Simmons's desk soon after the fire. Even more disturbing, Carl explains that the security footage shown during Maya's trial had been spliced together. It hid the fact that she left the building hours before anything happened. They know the evidence was twisted, but now they need something concrete if they're going to break the case open for good. Olivia and Carl know there's no way they can trust the usual channels to deliver real justice. Every time someone brings a complaint about Judge Simmons or Councilman Patterson, it gets buried before it sees daylight. The only shot they have is to act on their own and get that original video file from the courthouse. Carl is pretty sure it is sitting on an old backup server stashed in the basement, a spot hardly anyone goes except a handful of tech guys and the night crew. They put their heads together, planning every detail. When the cleaning crew does its rounds, which doors stay unlocked the longest, and how to avoid the cameras that are still working. Olivia is nervous, but there is no hesitation in her voice as she agrees that this is the only way left to save Maya before the state moves her. After midnight, the city is quiet, and the courthouse is mostly dark. Dressed in black, Carl goes ahead, chatting with the front security guard and steering him away from the elevators. Olivia sneaks in through a side door, relying on old skills she thought she had left behind in younger years. She picks the basement lock and slips inside, her hands shaking but steady enough. Every footstep echoes, and the tension is so thick she can barely breathe, knowing that one bad move could ruin everything. Not just for them, but for Maya and everyone else counting on them. Inside the records room, Olivia quickly scans shelves covered in old tech and files until she spots the hard drive label for the night of the fire. Her fingers fumble for a second, but she manages to unplug it and tuck it safely away. Just as she turns to leave, she hears footsteps echoing down the hall. The door handle rattles. Instinct kicks in, and Olivia quietly lifts a loose vent cover near the floor, squeezing herself into the cramped duct. She feels metal scrape her shins and elbows, and her breath is shallow as she inches along, trying to stay silent. The sound of heavy boots passes close by and then fades. When she finally sees the glow of night through the outside grate, relief nearly knocks the wind out of her. Outside, Carl is there, engine running and nerve shot. Olivia jumps in, and they take off into the quiet Atlanta night. Back at Samuel's house, the whole group crowds around the old laptop in the kitchen. When they pull up the footage, there is Maya, closing and locking the community center well before the flames start. Proof is clear as day. At first, everyone lets out the breath they have been holding, but relief quickly turns to worry. They all know the system has a way of pushing back, sometimes harder than anyone expects, and now time is running short. At first, Olivia wants to do things by the book. She figures the best move is to send the original footage and all their evidence straight to the Atlanta Innocence Project, thinking an official organization will know how to handle it. Before she can hit send, though, Samuel speaks up, stopping her with a firm look. He reminds Olivia just how slow the wheels of justice turn in Atlanta, especially when the people in power work overtime to keep cases like this hidden. He warns that if they trust the system now, Maya's case could disappear into a mess of paperwork and stalling, maybe never see the light of day. As the two of them go back and forth, a call comes in. Bad news. Judge Simmons has pushed up Maya's transfer date, and she could be moved to a state prison within a week. That changes everything. The group feels the pressure. Suddenly, there's no time for hesitation. Olivia realizes they have to take a stand out in the open. They cannot rely on backroom deals or quiet work behind the scenes anymore. Olivia decides they will share their evidence everywhere. Local news, social media, and every Atlanta community group they can find. Fear turns into energy. If they have to risk their names and futures, so be it. Maya is worth it, and so are all those who might become targets next. Determined to make the story impossible to ignore, Olivia reaches out to Jasmine Lee, a local journalist with a reputation for uncovering the kinds of Atlanta stories big news outlets always seem to miss. Jasmine doesn't waste any time. She comes straight to Samuel's house, sitting at the old kitchen table where the group has camped out for days now. Olivia lays out everything. She hands over the hard drive with the footage, the stack of detailed documents about the fire, Carl's personal account of what he saw, and a growing list of Atlanta teens whose lives have been shattered by crooked cases like Maya's. Jasmine can see this goes way beyond one kid and one fire, so as soon as she double-checks what she has, she gets to work. Instead of waiting on an editor or traditional TV, she uploads the story to social media, adding the video clip and tagging anyone who might listen. The response is electric. Within just a few hours, Maya's name trends across the city, and people from West Atlanta to Buckhead are sharing the story, calling for justice and demanding answers. The public noise builds fast, so strong that the Atlanta Innocence Project and city officials have no choice but to react, no matter how badly they want all to go away. It does not take long for Atlanta to wake up and respond. By noon the next day, the streets around City Hall and the courthouse are packed with people holding homemade signs and chanting Maya's name alongside calls for real justice. The energy feels like something bigger than any one person, with folks from all parts of the city, students, church groups, and families coming together. Some march in peaceful circles, while others pass out water bottles or help those who struggle in the summer heat. Media vans line the block, and every major national network suddenly wants interviews. All the noise leaves city officials with nowhere to hide. The Atlanta Innocence Project is forced to go public, finally opening a major investigation into Maya's conviction and the other cases tied to the crooked courthouse. Meanwhile, Carl braces himself for his own turning point. Even though he is used to working quietly in the background, now the spotlight is on him. Standing on a makeshift stage, microphone in hand, with dozens of cameras pointed and the crowd hanging on his every word, Carl tells everything. He describes how evidence was changed, names names, and admits just how deep the corruption runs, even if it means putting himself in danger to make sure Maya and others have a shot at real justice. With the truth splashed across every news channel and details spreading on every phone in Atlanta, there is finally too much pressure for local officials to ignore. The governor's office steps in, and Judge Simmons is removed from all open cases and placed under investigation. For the first time, a federal commission is set up to look into Maya's case, and many others like it, making it clear that this is bigger than just one courtroom or one mistake. The commission chooses Judge Rebecca Johnson, known around Georgia for her honesty and refusal to cut corners, to oversee Maya's review. The news sends a fresh wave of hope through Maya's family, her neighbors, and all those who spent days protesting for her. When the big day arrives, the courthouse is packed with people from all over the city, waiting to see real justice play out. Maya walks in this time, not in handcuffs, but wearing a plain blue dress her mother picked out that morning. She stands tall between her new legal team, veterans from the Southern Civil Rights Fund, who are ready to break down every lie and show the truth Judge Simmons and others tried to hide. The air carries a mix of hope and nervous energy, as everyone inside knows that change only comes when the old ways are put on public display and forced to face the facts. As the hearing begins, the tension in the packed Atlanta courthouse is thick. People shift in their seats, barely breathing as Maya's new legal team stands to speak. They move quickly, showing the original video that proves Maya locked the center hours before the fire even started. Everyone can see how much care went into hiding this proof, and the mood in the room changes. Stacks of altered documents pass from hand to hand, with careful notes showing what was changed and when. Carl takes a deep breath before sharing his story in his own words, telling the courtroom how police and court workers work together to silence the truth and frame kids who never stood a chance. The prosecutor, who a week ago acted like he could not lose, looks lost now. His voice shakes. He cannot explain away the new evidence. Even he seems to know there is nothing left to defend. Judge Rebecca Johnson keeps things moving and makes her decision clear and fast. She stands and rules that Maya's conviction is thrown out because her rights were trampled and the evidence against her was faked. Inside the courtroom, cheers and hugs fill the air, but Olivia cannot help glancing at Maya. She knows their battle is just beginning, since so many others have been hurt by the same broken system. The morning after the hearing, Olivia and Jasmine meet at the local office space where Jasmine's independent news team works. The modest newsroom bustles with activity, but for Olivia and Jasmine, everything narrows down to one long desk covered in lists and folders. Printed names and photocopies tell the stories of 57 Atlanta teens who have quietly lost their freedom to the same crooked scheme that nearly ended Maya's life. Each page represents a family broken, and as Olivia flips through them, the weight of their new fight settles in. This time, there is no question about their mission. Every single one of those cases needs to be reopened. Those who were responsible, judges, officers, city workers, must be brought into the light and forced to answer for years of harm. Olivia cannot shake the need to do more, so she calls Maya that afternoon. Her voice is shaky, but she speaks from the heart, asking Maya if she will help fight for the kids who still have no one in their corner. For the first time since everything started, mother and daughter are on the same side, pushing forward together. Maya does not hesitate. She agrees, promising her mom that, from now on, they will make sure no one else is forgotten or left behind. A week later, outside Atlanta City Hall, Olivia stands side by side with Maya and Samuel in front of a sea of people. The air is thick with the sounds of voices chanting, car horns, and a mix of hope and anger you can almost touch. Olivia steps up to the microphone first, her hands shaking just a little. She looks straight at the crowd and, for the first time, admits that she could have done more in the past, that fear kept her quiet for too long. But she promises never to ignore injustice again, vowing to fight for every name on those long lists scattered across Jasmine's newsroom. Maya takes a deep breath before speaking, sharing her story not just as a victim, but as someone ready to protect the next person in line. Samuel, always soft-spoken, talks about the importance of community and not letting anyone fall through the cracks. The crowd is packed with families who have lost so much, and as their voices join together, hope starts to feel real again. Public pressure does not let up. Courts are forced to schedule hearings for every young person wronged by the old system. Every time a name is cleared, people in the gallery cry and hug, building something new from the broken pieces of the past. Maya chooses to stay in Atlanta, even though some people urge her to leave and start over somewhere far away. She tells her mom that she refuses to hide and wants to help change the city that nearly forgot her. With the support of her family and neighbors, Maya finds an old corner store that has been empty for years and decides it will be the heart of something new. Every morning, she unlocks the doors and welcomes kids and teens inside, teaching them how to fix computers, write code, and speak up for themselves. It is not always easy. Sometimes the building leaks when it rains, and sometimes supplies run low, but the space fills up anyway, laughter and learning bouncing off the chipped walls. Olivia and Samuel are always around, volunteering, painting murals, and learning from the young people they meet. The three of them talk every week about how it feels to stay, to stick it out instead of running from bad memories. Slowly, their little center becomes a symbol, not just in their part of town, but all across Atlanta. Maya's voice, once ignored, is now heard in city meetings and on local radio. Her story reminds everyone that real change comes when ordinary people refuse to be silent or invisible ever again.